like to come to Madam Bhadoria. Ma'am, sometime back, there is a crisis in Joshimath, since you hail from Uttarakhand. And you know, after Britishers left, I don't think in India we have created much cities, new cities I mean, except most probably Lavasa in Maharashtra. No new cities, in my knowledge, so far as my knowledge goes, no new hill station, no new cities have been created. Or in future it may come. So in view of the crisis in Joshimath, how do you think that the cities, especially in unstable areas in Uttarakhand, to be made sustainable using the technology which we have available today?
Good afternoon to all the dignitaries present over here and to my co-panelists. Thank you so much for having me here. And as sir has rightly mentioned, the Joshimath crisis very recently has created a lot of panic in our state as well as in the entire country, because Joshimath has been rightly termed as a sinking town, as sir has said. So when the cracks actually started, and I also tell it from my own personal experience, because I was also posted in Chamolia just a few months back before this crisis happened. So when the cracks are a regular kind of a feature in all of these cities as well as in the villages. But then when the cracks started developing, everybody was in a state of panic. Okay, it is happening, but how much it is happening, nobody knew. So again, from your conventional wisdom, you can tell that it is happening. We have to evacuate people, shift them to other places. But then unless and until you use some technological interventions, you'll not get a view as to how much it is happening and what is the solution to it. So the first thing which was devised was a crack meter, was brought from the CBRI. So that we can have the exact measurement of how the crack is progressing, it is increasing or is it decreasing. So we had got a lot of crack meters from the CBRI. It is based on a simple technology. Again, it is a technology, but it is not that conventional kind of IT technology, but it is a simple technology which is based on a tensed wire creates, if there is a tension in a strand, it vibrates with certain frequency, and the frequency is directly proportional to the tension in the wire. A software in the crack meter converts it into the length of the crack. So it is just monitored on that basis. And so these types of small interventions are also very important to see where our towns are going, because it is not very easy to develop. We always in Uttarakhand, we feel that environment as well as development has to go hand in hand, and a lot of new developmental initiatives are happening, like a new national highway is being developed, 4-lane, and then railway connectivity is also being extended over there. But then we have to keep this technology, this green technology in mind, if we have to progress sustainably. In fact, a few months back when I was there in 2021, a big disaster also broke out, and there were 2 HEPs, hydroelectric power plants. They were being constructed, and a lot of workers were working on it. So the cause was mostly natural, but then it might have been exaggerated a bit by the man-made things also. So there was a glacial burst which hit the 2 HEPs, and a lot of workers were working, and in that disaster 204 people died. They went missing initially. So one is conventional, again, as I said, the way we rushed to the site, and then conventionally we tried JCBs and pokelanes and excavators to evacuate people. But then immediately we also thought of using some technology to expedite the process, because the first 2-3 hours are very important. It is supposed to be the golden hour, and we can save a lot of lives if we work very prudently in those times. So we used that ground penetrating radars. So there were a lot of tunnels in the NTPC hydroelectric power plant. So one of the tunnels, we send it sends radio waves into the ground, and then the GPR gives it back as to how long is how wide is the blockage, or is the slush, or whatever it is. So in one of the tunnels we realized that it is hollow inside. So immediately ITBP was sent to that tunnel, and the slushing began, very fast. So we could rescue 12 people from that tunnel, only thanks to this technology. Otherwise, because everything was blocked in front of us, so we did not know where to try first. So this was the technology which was used, and we actually realized it is hollow kind of inside, so we might get people out very quickly. So this is one technology, but then when we used it in the other tunnel, not many people, it was already slushy, a liquidy kind of a thing, so the GPR was not able to function in that. It was not sending any waves back. It was like receiving all the waves we were sending, it was not sending anything back. So we realized, okay, it must be fully covered, the tunnel must be fully covered with the slush and all of these muck. So it is not sending, so it might be difficult to save some people over there. Then we thought of a remote sensing camera, there was a camera sent through a drilled part, and it was sent inside the tunnel. And again, it is again a technology, and we found that nothing is left in that tunnel, and it is all covered with slush. So we had lost hope, although we just went on slushing the tunnel, and slowly and steadily we started getting some bodies. Obviously, no live recovery was made from there. So, and then we had thought after like 3 or 4 days it is very difficult to save live people alive, but then the families had also started coming in, and we had to at least recover their dead bodies. So the drones were also used, because it was a very, very big river which was flowing right in front of the tunnel, and which right in front of the HEPs. So a lot of dead bodies were recovered using the drone cameras. So at least when we recovered any body using the drone cameras, we used to send our NDRF teams and everybody, and they used to bring the bodies. So these are small little things where the technology can be used in these are very simple technologies, but then they are very important if a lot of lives have to be saved. And similarly, a glacial lake was made, in the upper reaches of the Himalayas, and we got the information that a glacial lake has been made, and it might breach, it might break its wall, and the entire downstream villages may be washed away. So the first thing we did was aerial recce was used, and after the aerial recce we realized there actually is a lake. Now how to measure, will it be very, very dangerous? If it is dangerous, we'll have to evacuate the people. If it is not dangerous, we can just let it be. So it is very important to know how to do it. So, but then it was in a very treacherous kind of terrain, very, very far off. So Navy and as well as the Air Force, they were used, and using very winching, the IF helicopters winched the Navy people, and they measured it very accurately using the echo sounder. Echo sounder is a very, very simple, again, it is based on the sonar kind of technology. So it was a very simple technology, but that solved a lot of our problem, and the depth and height and width and everything was measured by the scientists, and then they also measured the strength of the mud walls around it, and it was realized it's not going to breach it so quickly, and if we clear the obstacles slowly, then the water will have its own free flow, and it is not going to breach the wall, and it is not going to create another disaster on the top of that. So we work in a very disastrous kind of a situation. We have to be very, very careful that we don't have to take development to that level where it starts creating disaster of its own. So other than that, also in forest fires, we also have a lot of forest fires in Uttarakhand, especially in March to the month of May, June. We have a lot of forest fires. So because when the forests catch fire, then it's very difficult to douse them. So it's very important to detect it in the early stages. So there are 3 satellites, and FSI has developed that system, wherein the satellite imagery is continuously using the infrared signaling. It keeps sending alerts to all wherever it finds a little bit of heat and fires. So it keeps sending signals to us and to the forest control room, to the DFOs, to the district magistrate, everywhere. So once we detect those forest fires, some of them may not actually have developed into fires, but then we send our teams immediately to those places, and then they manually obviously douse it. So these small little things are very important in our state of Uttarakhand, which is ecologically very fragile. These are some of the curative kind of things. We can also use it for preventing disasters. We had in Himalayas, most of the rivers are very perennial in nature, but then we also have some seasonal rivers, and then they need to be like revived because they keep drying as they flow from the source, and as they come to the bottom to the like plain areas, it starts drying. So we took up a project, river rejuvenation of Mothugad River, so wherein GIS technology was used, because generally what happens is we just ponds are dug and infiltration holes are made and whatever is done, but then there's no planning behind it. Wherever anybody wants, they just dig it. So a GIS mapping of the entire Mothugad area was made, and it was divided into 12 recharge zones, and all of those zones, we exactly pinpointed where infiltration hole is needed, where trenches are needed, where plants are needed, where check dams are needed. So that way the people and the volunteers and our own workers were sent with a GPS device, and they dug, because it is based on the slope. If we dig anything anywhere, it is not going to be of any use. So the exact locations were pointed on the GPS map, and the people and the volunteers used to dig or plant or do whatever is prescribed in that map over there. So that quickly gave us a good result, and that also fortunately won us the PM award for Namami Gange. So these small little technologies go a long way in implementation of a green and sustainable kind of environment in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You know, in Chile, there was a mine in 1990s. It was an open cast mine, and the slope failure was predicted 4.5 years in advance. And exactly that date time, 1 hour was the error. So that was the prediction in 90s. Nowadays we have got so much of technology, especially these GPRs. Then few days back, ISRO has come up with India's coastline maps, how it has changed over 10 years, last 10 years, 20 years, over the decades, how it has changed, how much land area we have lost to the sea, or how shape has changed. So all these things can be predicted. So do you think whatever you just narrated, all these things are taken into the state disaster management plan so that it can be proactively, or prevention is better than cure, we all know that, so that it can be prevented. Majority of disaster in Himalayas, unstable Himalayas, tertiary Himalayas, is slope failure. At least slope failure can be predicted in advance. We can warn our citizens. So all those, if state disaster management authority, I don't know whether they are planning or have already incorporated entire mapping of the state in this regard.
Yes, our we have a state disaster management authority, and as far as landslide prediction is concerned, it is being done in a very pilot kind of a mode. Nowhere in India has it been developed, has it been scaled to such a level that it is very smooth running system. But then, yes, it has been done in a as a pilot project in a lot of places in our district. Also, it was done, and so we had identified 6 of the very unstable slopes, and they were treated by the NHI DCL and other agencies, PIU from the government of India. They were engaged to treat those parts of the slopes. So it is being done, and then there are a lot of technologies. When the slope failure, when we realize that there will be a slope failure, we have to do something about it, obviously. So the slope stabilization things and all of those are being taken up in the state of Uttarakhand.
Thank you, ma'am.